Welcome back to Zach's Garage. In today's video, we are going to be continuing our Bayliner boat restoration project. And the next thing we're going to work on is finishing the last seat cushion for the bow of the boat. So don't go anywhere. Let's go ahead and get right into it. So inside this trash bag contains what's left of the third and final seat cushion for the bow of the boat. Now, I actually haven't looked at it yet, so we're about to find out its condition together. Dang, that looks pretty dirty on top. See on bottom. Whoa, this is pretty nasty. Good God, look at that. My gosh. Well, it looks like we got pretty much the exact same situation with this one as we had with the other two seat cushions. So we're gonna have to rip all the fallen apart wood chunks out, take all the staples out of the vinyl, clean the vinyl up, and then cut out a new piece of wood and staple it all back together and get it in the boat. Let us begin. Black piece of junk, molding, rotten, yucky cover removed. And now to go for all these staples. Good Lord, they used a lot. Alright, well, let's get to it.
The best method I found for removing the staples is using a chisel. You have to be careful not to rip into the vinyl, but this method worked reliably for all the staples I needed to remove.
Now that we've gotten all of the staples out of the vinyl upholstery, it's time to see if we can get the foam cushion removed. It likes to stick around the edges, so you gotta kind of pull it off. There we go. Now we got it started here. Oh, I see we got another one of these that's in multiple pads. Honestly, this thing would just be easier if it was just one, if you ask me. Alright, I'm gonna finish opening this bad boy up over the trash can over there. Golly, look at that. Part of it is still actually a little bit hard. Here we go. Oh, that is nice to be able to pull off a big chunk like that. This is about the only good piece left here in the middle. My gosh. Alright, well, we got the cushions out of here. Still a bit of wood I need to clean up on the side. One thing I was noticing was this little tab that they have here that had staples on it, where they pull it and staple it onto the foam to help suck down this middle part of the cushion. I was noticing that it's already just ripped through there, so it's not even doing any good. So I think what I'm going to do is just go ahead and rip this piece out of here because it is doing nothing. Maybe I'll get some scissors. Where's my scissors at? Here they are. There we go. Get this guy out of here. Now some of you might be wondering, what's the best method to get the last little bits of the wood pieces that are stuck to the back of the foam off? Some of it you can peel off, but the rest of it is just stuck there. One method I found works decently is taking a metal file like this and just getting it all loosened up. You can see a lot of it just comes right off. Alright, so we finished getting the backs of these foam pads cleaned up pretty good. As you can see there, this one's got a little more left on it, but it'll be fine, I promise. So now you can see with these right side up here where they come together, so I've got a pretty good outline of the shape for me to go ahead and get my plywood up here, trace out the shape and cut it out, and then go from there. So let's get to it. Alright, well I finished cutting out and sanding the piece of wood and I just got it tested into place and I am happy with how it fits in the cushion. I think it's just the right size, just the right shape. So what we're going to go ahead and do now is I'm going to take the wood back out and now I'm going to coat it in some resin to help waterproof it. I do have one new thing to show you guys. Epoxy resin. I know some of y'all have been commenting that it's the 21st century and that it's time to use epoxy instead of polyester. So I ordered some off of Amazon and now we can test it out and see how it works on this bad boy. So we finished letting the resin dry up or harden on this piece. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. So now let's go ahead and get this piece put in the upholstery.
And all that's left to do now is put the staples in.
Alright, so we finished getting the upholstery stapled onto the new piece of wood, and it fits pretty well, just like out of the factory, I'll tell you what. But now, one last thing I need to do that I almost forgot about is I need to go ahead and clean up the upholstery itself and wash it down to just make it look a little bit better. So let's go ahead and get to that now. Alright, so we finished getting the vinyl cleaned up. Let me say it looks a lot better now. It's amazing how much of a difference it makes when the fabric is just clean. Even though there are still a few nicks in it, overall it is still perfectly fine to use, and I am happy with it. So now the next thing we're gonna do is just go ahead and see if this bad boy is gonna fit in the boat with the other seat cushions. Let's get to it. Look at that. Fits like a glove. Let me tell you. Man, let me just say it is nice to finally have all three of the seat cushions in here long at last. It's been quite a while with no cushions at all in the front of the boat. So it's awesome we finally have these in here. The only thing remaining now is the back cushions that fill this spot right here. So that's what we're gonna go look at now. I already got the pieces right over here. And let me just say, these might be the first pieces that I'm not gonna have to replace the wood on. So we finally get a break with that. But as you can see, they are pretty dirty, so we're gonna need to go ahead and clean them up.
So this is what they looked like before we cleaned them up, and this is what they looked like after. Before, after, before, after, before, after. And just like that, these pieces are looking almost as good as new. So now the next step is going to be to figure out how these pieces go back into the boat.
As you can see, I do have the first seat back into position there. It's not in all the way just yet, but I was testing out to make sure I remembered how all of this fits together, because there's a hinge that goes right here and it fits pretty well, but as I was actually sitting leaning against it, I accidentally pushed it too far back there, and that made me remember there's a wood piece goes right here behind it to stop it. And you can see I've got the one over here into position. Now there's only one problem with this one. You notice it's not going in all the way. So let me show you why that is. Oh God. Notice that corner is hitting the wall right there. So what I'm gonna have to do is trim a little bit off of that wood, and then hopefully this will fit just a little bit better. Right now where it's getting caught up on is right there at the wall. It's just binding up a little bit. Alright, we trimmed a little bit off of the corner here. So now to find out if this is gonna fit in the boat. You can see this fits in a lot better now. It is nice and snug and looks pretty good, I gotta say. There's only one problem I just realized though. You notice over here how the cushion's gonna hinge at the top there? Well, this is supposed to be, the top of this is supposed to be below where those holes are. And if I move it away, you can see the holes are right there. What I figured out happened is that I made these seat boxes just a tiny bit taller than what they were before, so it pushed up where this board goes to a little too high on those holes. So now I'm gonna need to either trim a little bit off the top or a little bit off the bottom in order to compensate. So now I gotta take the staples out of the upholstery for the top of this. I then trim just a little bit off, probably about, I don't know, maybe half an inch. And then put it back in, and then it should fit just how it's supposed to. Alright, well, it looks like this fits a lot better now. You can see all of the holes are exposed on top now. So I think this is a good cut. I'm going to go ahead and sand off the edges on this guy and then staple the upholstery back up. Boy, I'm glad in episode 3 when I was taking this stuff apart, only 50 videos ago, I put these in a bag labeled front seat back wall. So I knew these were the brackets that fastened to the back of this right there to hold it down to keep it from moving. But before I screw those in, I want to make sure I have this at the right slant angle. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the other seat back and screw it in up there to make sure everything still fits right. Alright, so we got this seat back in, as you can see, and I did screw in the hinge with 2 screws on each side. But now whenever it comes down, there's just a slight problem. You notice when I push it in all the way, it will pop back out like that. So I think what's happening is that lip on the wood right there, I think is binding up on this board still. So I think what that means is I'm going to need to make this white board just a little bit shorter. So I stand corrected. I am not going to have to shave more off of that piece. And that's because I took out this seat cushion just to double check. And now it goes down just fine and hits the board no problem. And it's not trying to spring back or nothing. Here's my redneck way of holding this seat cushion up while I'm gonna drill a hole for these hinges because I'm too lazy to unscrew this and put it back on. I don't know how good of an angle that gives the camera from there, but I guess it's worth a try. Get these bad boys in. I bet I'm gonna drop this about 5 times. Got the first screw started here. Oh, ooh, very nice. Very nice indeed. Ah, there's the screw drop. I knew it was gonna happen. I think I got it started. You know, in my mind, like replacing these seat cushions and putting them back in would just take like 30 minutes, you know. Well, here we are, like days into it. Weeks into it. Oh, I have to go left-handed here. No, I'm definitely gonna drop these. Got the screw started. My gosh, this is an awkward position. Good Lord. Ah, there we go. Got my whole darn arm in here. Feels like I'm going to the bathroom. That's not exactly what I wanted. No, now it's moving around everywhere. Problem here is that just moved our piece up. Let me see if that's still okay. I'm gonna be pissed if this binds up. Son of a hamster. Why does everything have to be so difficult? This hinge, where it mounts to, just tried to move the board up. So I'm going to make some new holes so that way the hinge goes all the way down. Son of a frickin' hamster. I think I'm gonna have to trim more off the top of the wood after all. I am not going to have to shave more off of that piece. What a pain in the butt. Alright, I'm back now, and I cut more off the top. As you can see, it's a bit lower now. It seems like just a tad, but it's just enough to where it closes just fine without binding up. So now I can go ahead and finally fasten down the screws for that piece, and I'll be done with this side. Alright, this piece is good to go. I got all the screws in that I'm going to put in on there. I did 3 for each side of the hinge. I got it bolted down right there. So you can see this part is solid, it's not going anywhere. And it is a snug fit, but that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. So now what we got to do next to finish up is get the board put in. Alright, so with this side, it looks like we've got the same issue we had with this side, where I'm not able to get this board in all the way because up underneath it is hitting on the corner there. So we're going to have to trim that off. And then I also see that once we do get that, it looks like this board is a little too high and is going to bind up here at the top. So we're also going to need to cut some off of this as well. Alright, this guy fits into place just right now. You can see I left more than enough room here at the top. So that's all good. Now it's time to get the slant right on it and then screw it down. And we got it all fastened in there, and this is good to go now. Let me tell you, we're about out of daylight, so I finished just in time, and I am happy with the way this looks. It's pretty awesome having all 3 seats in here now. And that is gonna do it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed this, please leave a thumbs up. And if you want to see all the future videos, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. But with that said, guys, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.